Hello, everybody, and welcome again to our Letting Go 2020 seminar. This is Reinhard Klatt, Certified High Performance Coach, and thank you so much for joining us. It's a real honor that you are spending the time on your personal development, and I really applaud you for that. We have, in the first couple of days, talked about a couple of very important topics. And for you to benefit from those, please just go and check out our replays. They are available for you now. And so just go to those. To summarize briefly what we talked about the first couple of days is, first, I told my story about how letting go literally saved my life during a life and death event where, as a student pilot on my third solo flight, I got into what they call a graveyard spiral, and I was dropping 1,000 feet out of the sky, thinking I would not survive this. And the only thing that saved my life was actually letting go of all the controls and just asking God, take this plane. And then literally I got out of it instantly, and that saved my life. Hence the title, Letting Go Saved My Life, the title of my book, on which this seminar is based. And we are covering a lot of topics that have come up over the years, where people that I told the story mentioned to me things that they had to let go in their own lives. The first couple of days we talked about letting go of control, which sometimes, can really be a problem for us. We make matters worse when we try to overly control things, situations. And in my case, it literally did save my life when I did let go of the controls. And another issue is that one of the things that we discussed yesterday was the fact that our pride and ego, they can be a big stumbling block in our lives. And if we replace that with humility and confidence, then we will be a lot more successful on a personal level, of course, but also in whatever business endeavor we may be in. So we are going actually quite deep on those subjects in the first couple of days. So please go back and check them out and watch the replay. But today, what I would like to focus on is our past, which also holds the key to grudges and bitterness. And so I want to talk about our past and on what may be holding you back, and ask yourself, what is it in the past that you're holding on to? I think the number one thing that we need to always remember, no matter what we do today, we cannot recover the past. We cannot change what has happened in the past. And so that is one thing that sometimes maybe help us to just realize we have to try to think about this rationally about our past. And oftentimes when people hang on to the past, they say, oh, this didn't work out, or that didn't work out, or woe is me. Oftentimes people have a victim mentality when they think, oh, everything happened to me, and therefore I'm in this situation now, and therefore I cannot do anything to get out of it. And they hang on to the past. And that is not a very healthy approach. When we think about it, none of us are as unique sometimes as we think we are. Yes, we are all unique in a way, but sometimes people would say, some of the clients would say, well, you don't understand. Well, in a way, when you think about it, that's the ego speaking here. When we think we're that unique, there's 7 billion people on the face of this earth, and nothing that we experience in this life is so unique that there's not somebody else who has experienced the same thing or very similar thing, or who has maybe suffered a lot more than we have. I was reminded of a friend of ours who visited us, and she grew up in Cambodia. And she had lost 2 of her siblings and her father to starvation under the Pol Pot regime. Now, I often tell people, well, who has experienced something like that. And yet it's a person that has made something out of her life, that has been very successful working in the corporate world, and is generally a very joyful person. He's not a bitter person at all. So no matter what evil or what bad things we may have experienced in life, there is hope and there's reason to move forward and to let go of that past. I was very much encouraged when I got training for as a coach. And in the training with Brandon Burchard, there were many other people who got prepared and trained and certified. And it was incredible to me to get to know some of them and to learn about some of the hardships that some of them had gone through. Horrendous hardships. They lost loved ones, they lost children, they lost sometimes their health, and they recovered, but they have lost loved ones as well to illness or to accidents, and have just gone through tremendous trials in their lives. And my hat is up to them for really recovering well and for still making the best out of their lives today and the plans they have for the future. There was one person that I knew who had gone through tremendous trials, and that was a man who lost his daughter to a car accident. And then a few years later, he lost his wife to cancer. He was left alone with the son of his daughter that he had to raise by himself. And his grandson. So the grandson said one time after a little while after his grandmother died, because his mother had died before, he asked, "Can I have another mommy?" Now that's heartbreaking. But instead of just thinking about his heartbreak, the man was able to recover. And actually, he was open to meeting other ladies. He was still at an age where it was not too late for him to get married again. And he did get married rather quickly. Now, some people thought, oh, that's not right. And, he should mourn a little longer, whatever. Well, who are we to tell somebody else that they need to mourn longer? Because when you think about it rationally, whom does it serve? Of course, we want to make sure that whatever we do, we don't do it irrationally on a rebound or anything like that. But when we can recover from a setback, when we can recover from a loss rather quickly, we should rejoice in that. And we should say, okay, let's focus on being thankful what we had and not on what we don't have anymore. And that is really the key, I think, to letting go of the past or dealing with the past. Yes, be thankful for the things that we have experienced, but not think so much and spend so much time mourning of what we don't have anymore. There is a mourning process we all go through, and we don't need to beat each other ourselves up over that. But also remember, whom do we serve when we don't try to recover from it and do the best to live in the present and to plan for the future. Now, it was about a year ago that my wife and I celebrated our 23rd wedding anniversary. And on that day, we watched a few videos when our kids were young. And it was interesting that was somewhat of a mixed bag emotionally. On the one hand, we were very grateful that we've had an opportunity to raise our children in a healthy and safe environment. So very grateful for that. And it was fun to watch the playing on the beach or in the pool and to just play with the kids and all the laughter we had. But at the same time, it felt a little melancholic in the sense that in a way, I mourned a little the loss of those days, the loss of those times. So it can be a very mixed bag about hanging on to the past or thinking about the past. So we want to make sure that whatever we think about when it comes to the past, that we do not hang on to so much to the bad stuff, the things that hold us back and that don't allow us to live fully in the present. And that sort of takes us into the area of also what about grudges and bitterness. But before we go there, I just want to mention one more thing about my father when he passed away somewhat prematurely. He was already 77 years old, but still, that's still a relatively young age, I think, these days. And what I have realized at the time, in a way, thankfully, I was able to look at it as a new chapter in my life. Not so much the end, but just a new chapter in my life. Because quite frankly, up until that point, even though I was married and had my own children, had my own job, was financially independent for quite a while already, somehow deep in the back of my mind, I always had this thought: if I get into trouble, if I get into difficulties, my dad will always be there to bail me out. No longer. He was no longer there. So that was a new chapter in my life. There was not a sense that there was somebody that I could rely on anymore. Now, for me, that was a spiritually, in a way, a good experience, in the sense that I realized, okay, no matter what happens, God will always be there for me. So he's the one that I can depend on as my father. So that was a shift. But also the other thing, what happened is, in a way, a blessing that came out of attending his funeral, going back to Germany. I realized more fully on how much he was involved in other people's lives, how much of a difference he made doing the volunteer work that he was doing. And the way I realized that was because there were several eulogies at his funeral. And so after the funeral, I told my sister, I said, I don't know that I have enough life left to make as much of a difference as my dad has made. So in that sense, it also opened a new chapter in my life, where I was trying to focus much more on how can I contribute? What's the mission? What am I expect to do for the rest of my life to really make a difference? And so things developed, and I'm in that sense very grateful for that growth experience. So we can always look at it in different ways. We can be grateful for all the things that we've had, and then look at it, okay, that's a chapter in our lives that is now closed, and a new chapter is opening, and new opportunities will be there. And if nothing else, it will be helping us, if we take the right approach, to become a more mature person. So there are several questions in my book about coaching style questions at the end of the chapter of letting go of the past. And the questions are: how much time do I spend thinking about the past? And what do I think about when I'm reminded of positive things that happened in the past? Do they fill me with gratitude and joy, or do I mourn the fact that those days are now gone? And when I'm reminded of the painful and negative experiences of the past, where does my mind go? Have I identified memories in the past that make me sad, bitter, resentful, or regretful? Or what lessons could I learn from these painful experiences? Or how can I think about the past in ways that would not make me bitter? And can I start to accept that the past cannot be altered, no matter how much I dwell on it? Or how does dwelling on the past keep me from being fully in the present? Oftentimes we don't enjoy life or really feel fulfilled in life because our mind is either on what was or what may be in the future, instead of being fully in the present with the people that we are with at the time, or with the task that we are working on at the moment. So again, this letting go of the past has a lot to do with also letting go of grudges and bitterness. So the question is this: are you still holding on to any grudges in your life? And have those grudges or those resentments given you a sense of bitterness? You know, when we hold on to the past, when we hold on to grudges, In other words, if we don't forgive, that's like taking a poison pill, hoping it will hurt the other person. It does not serve us at all. The only person that it hurts, really hurts, is us. And that's one thing that we have to realize. It's not really rational to maintain grudges and bitterness. It has a negative effect. It drains our energy level now. It affects us emotionally, mentally. It can cause psychosomatic diseases, diseases that are caused by very negative emotions. And so, again, we're not really doing serving anybody, and we're not punishing anybody else but ourselves if we don't forgive, and if we don't hold on to grudges and become bitter. So how do we overcome grudges? Well, one thing is we need to learn to forgive. And sometimes people say, well, I can't really forgive. Well, maybe that depends on what is your definition of forgiveness. What I find interesting is there's three Hebrew words that are actually used in the Old Testament to talk about forgiveness, that are translated into the word forgiveness. And these three different words have different meanings. The first one is salach, that means the kind of forgiveness, a spiritual kind of a forgiveness that only God can give us. Or can extend to us, where we have sinned against him and then he can forgive us. So that's something that we can't do as human beings, but there's a couple of other words for forgiveness. And one of them is kafer, that means to cover up, to cover it over, to pitch it over, sort of the same word that's used for Noah's Ark being covered with pitch. So what can we do? We can just not bring things up anymore. The way we extend forgiveness, that we don't bring it up, we don't remind people of it, and we just forget about it. Maybe we can't forget about it, but we can prevent it from being brought up over and over again. So we can do that. We can help people when they have done something wrong. We can say, okay, I don't have to tell everybody about it unless I have to warn people in certain situations, which often that doesn't apply. But the other word for forgiveness, the third one, is nasa. That's like lifting a burden. I always think of it, nasa, as when the rockets take off in Florida, and nasa, I have liftoff. That's how I remember that word, nasa. And it really means to lift a burden. Sometimes people have to suffer the consequences of their own wrongdoings. And sometimes when we extend nasa to them, that means we help them carry the burden that they carry with them. Why do we want to do that? Because none of us are perfect. All of us have done something wrong to somebody at one point or another. So we want also not to have to always deal with the consequences of what we have done wrong. So that's, in a way, it's a spiritual principle as well. If we extend nasa and kafer, that means we help somebody in their situation. We don't necessarily let them live through all the consequences of their wrongdoings. That's what we don't necessarily want to have to do ourselves. So we extend that to others. And the other way to think about it is the admonition to love our enemy. Now, that's, people say, I can't do that. How can I love my enemy? Well, I think some of it has to do with not really understanding what it means to love our enemy. We're supposed to bless them. That means to say good things about them. The Greek word is eulogio, which is the same word that we use for eulogy at a funeral. We say good things about a person. And when we say good things to a person, in other words, things that encourage them, that they don't put them down, then that's one way of extending love. I remember a situation where a man said to somebody who had a very troubled past, and was a difficult person, I mean, largely related to his troubled past, not to try to give people an excuse and take away their responsibility, but nevertheless, Then this older man told him over and over again, you're such a loser. You will never amount to anything. Now, that's one of the worst things that we can do to a person, to talk to them like that. And no matter how poorly somebody has treated us, we can still say things that are helpful. You know, it's been my personal experience that people that I have helped the most, some of the people that I have helped the most in my life, uh, that they have treated me the worst. And so it's very difficult. But when you still think of them, don't say bad things to them and curse at them and things like that. But you're still trying to be kind and respectful to them. It's like one of those people that I have responded to in that manner has actually felt deep regret and remorse afterwards when he realized what he had done to me. And it turned him around, and a relationship is good now. So um, it has a purpose. It serves us much, much better if we do say good things to even somebody who may treat us so poorly that we almost consider them an enemy. Another one is to do good. To do good means that we don't stoop down to their level. And we may help them out if they get in trouble, despite of what they may have done in the past. And again, that can, turn them around. And then we're admonished to also pray about it, about the situation. What is our intent? What do we want? Let's think about it this way. When our children, let's say our children turn away from us, if we have children, and they leave us and there is strife, and they treat us disrespectfully. I've seen situations where that happened when another person, when they got married to somebody who really pulled them away from the family. I've seen a few situations like that. What's the desire of the parent? The desire is that that person will turn around, that our children will turn around. It's not our desire at all that they will remain our enemies for the rest of our lives. No, that would really be hard, and it's hard enough. So our strong desire is to turn around and to have that mindset of a parent, of a loving parent who doesn't want their children to go the wrong way and to be against them and to be resentful towards them. Let's have that attitude towards everybody, that our hope is that everybody will turn around. We know there's a lot of evil going on in the world, and among the 7 billion people, we don't know how many of them are really evil, criminals, terrorists, very, very bad people. But I think we wish more that everybody would turn around and everybody would strive to be a good person, a serving person to others, and develop love rather than this hatred. That should be our desire. And if we take it with that approach, I think if we think about it that way, it is easier to love our enemy. Just to love our enemy, meaning hoping that they will turn around and that they will also become loving people. That should always be our hope, and that's what we should be. That's what we would want to work towards. And again, it's not so much necessarily just for their benefit, but it serves us. It changes the way we think, and it just puts us on a spiritually on a higher level. And we just go through the day very differently if we don't, if we look at people as potential people who could potentially turn their lives around. We will treat everybody differently if that's the approach we take, the approach we would like to take with our children. And so that's something that I was thinking about when we think about the past. If somebody has wronged us, if somebody has done some evil, let's hope that they will turn around. And holding on to a grudge in bitterness because of it, again, it only hurts ourselves. So the question is then, I have some coaching style questions here that you can jot down and ask yourself. And also, you can always order the book either on my website, at carriedoneagleswings.com, or you can go to Amazon and order the book there. It's available because I only ship within the United States. So on Amazon, it's available worldwide, and also it's available as an ebook on several platforms, and also as an audiobook. So in whichever way you want to see or read the chapter, it's great. Also on my website, in case you're still using CDs, I have a CD set. It's 2 CDs in there. You can order that on my website as well. Again, within the United States. So, but the questions that I have are there any grudges that you're holding on to? Is there any lingering resentment in your life? And ask yourself the question, do I understand what it means to forgive? And remember, this is not so much about a feeling, a warm and fuzzy feeling necessarily towards another person, but it's a decision we make, a decision to let go. And it's not to be confused with trust. Trust is a different matter. We can forgive somebody, but trust is something that is earned. And so that may take time to develop trust. So I think it helps us to be clear about what forgiveness really means in order to be able to forgive, and what it means to love an enemy. Again, it's not a warm and fuzzy feeling, trusting everybody, no, but it's a decision we make. And do I realize what holding on to grudges and bitterness does to me? I think that's the number one thing. That's really a big thing for us to remember. It's only hurting ourselves. It has negative effects. It drains us of our energy, our mental, emotional energy. It affects our health. It's tremendous. You know, some people live very healthy lives in every respect. You know, they work out, they eat well, and they do everything that they can to live physically a healthy life. But if the mindset is not right, if the mindset is negative, then that can have a tremendous effect on our health, and that can kill us, despite of the fact that we may take care of all the things on a physical level. And so ask ourselves whether we are willing to really give up all grudges. We can make that decision to let go of all the grudges we may be holding on to from the past. And then ask ourselves, is there any root of bitterness that is still in me that I am holding against somebody? And as we discussed what love your enemy, what that means, do we understand that? Let's just meditate on that and think about that it means to do good things, to say good things, and then to also pray and think about it. Do it with the right motive, hoping, developing that desire that people will turn around. And when you have a difficult time with letting go of grudges, think about it. What is the reason? What are we thinking about? Or what's the excuse somewhere in our mind that makes us think there's a benefit to it? Why are we not letting go? Do we still think somehow that when we don't forgive, that it's punishing the other person? And the other question too is, do I have a victim mentality, or do I take responsibility for my own life? There are many situations, many conflict situations, where it's not necessarily 100% the fault of just one person, where the other person is 100% the villain and we are 100% in the clear and we've done everything right in the relationship. That's often not the case. And when somebody does something that we say, well, I would never do that. Well, I heard a phrase or read about a phrase in a book about relationships, about solving conflicts and having difficult conversations. And that mindset was this. The thinking was encouraged like this. It said, let me be merciful to those who sin differently than I do. Let me be merciful to those who sin differently than I do. So people often do things that we don't understand from our perspective. They don't make sense. Maybe they have habits in ways of thinking that are foreign to us, but we may be having habits or do things that don't make any sense to them, and they don't have any understanding for what we are doing. So let's just be merciful and realize everybody struggles in different ways, depending on their past or their upbringing, whatever. And it's time for us to let go of that for ourselves and for others, and just be merciful with them, and realize we all have our shortcomings. We all have room to grow, no matter how mature we are and how good a person we think we are. And again, when there's a problem, do I always see other people as the villain? And not that prevents me from thinking, where could I change? Where could I make a difference? Where could I take a different approach from now on? And then also, what is very helpful is, what inspiring books and stories can I read about people who have been able to forgive tremendous injustices and injuries? It's interesting that it really doesn't matter what happens to people so much. As Viktor Frankl said in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which I read earlier this year. It's a really, really good book written by a Austrian psychiatrist that spent time in concentration camps during World War II under the Nazi regime. And he was saying this to himself and also to other prisoners who he was working with. He said, it doesn't matter so much on what we expect from life, but what life expects from us. So if we focus on what we can do, on how we can respond to a situation, what's the best way, how can our best self, our most mature, most courageous, most loving self, how can that person respond, or would that person respond to whatever situation there is? And that can help us tremendously. When a person like that, who has gone through several concentration camps, lost all his family in concentration camps, when they can turn their life around without becoming bitter, the question to me is, what is our excuse? We got the whole spectrum of people, from those who had suffered from some insults, and sometimes they were only perceived. They were only perceived offenses. They read something into it, they interpreted a certain situation a certain way, and they're offended for the rest of their lives, and they're bitter. And in the end, it was just a misunderstanding. There are those, and in the other extreme is those who have gone through tremendous sufferings, like this Viktor Frankl. And yet at the same time, they've been able to turn their lives around and not to be bitter, but to look forward and to do the best they can with whatever situation they are confronted with. And when we are reading about inspiring, maybe this will help us, reading inspiring books about people who have gone through tremendous trials and have sort of come out of it with a level of maturity, and with a level of still of gratitude, and with a level of just kindness. It is just incredibly inspiring. So that may help us if we struggle with letting go of some grudges and still have some feelings of bitterness. So when we read some of those books, some of those biographies or stories of people, will we allow those resources to put things into perspective for us and to help us to see the benefits that come from letting go of grudges and bitterness? That is the question. So just give it some thought, think about these things. And again, if you would like to dig a little bit deeper into this, feel free to buy the book, read the book, and ask any questions you like. And also go on my website where I offer personal coaching, more personal coaching, where we can go into depth of all kinds of areas, things that you may be struggling with that are holding you back, as well as giving you, coaching you through high performance habits, which help you really to move forward in life and to live the full, a fully engaged life that you are dreaming of. Also, what I have is a group coaching program that I'm going to start on February the 1st, every Monday morning at 6 o'clock Eastern Time. That's also, you can find that on my website, and I will be sending you links to that. You will be finding those. That's carried on Eagle's Wings, and then you look up coaching, and you have those things that you can watch. So that will be a subscription program for everybody who wants to become a high performer. Get up early Monday morning, set the week straight for, set the tone for the rest of the week, and to make 2021 a very successful year. Also, for those who want to grow spiritually, every Sunday morning, starting actually this coming Sunday, January the 3rd at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm going to have a webinar in which I will be talking about something that I started to write about. Actually, I wrote a book. It's still in the editing process, but it's coming out in 2021. And the book title is Coached by the Bible. And that is what this seminar is going to be based on. It's going to be for those who want to grow more deeply on a spiritual level as well. And a lot of the principles that we talk about, they are principles that have been given us over the ages through a lot of the books of wisdom literature, and certainly one of the biggest one there for me is the Bible. So that's what inspired that. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. But again, look to my website and see what's going on there, what you can learn, and what you can, and the resources that are available for your continued personal and spiritual growth. So, well, thank you so much for calling in today and for looking at this replay that shows you are committed to your personal development and for growth, and to looking into areas that you may have not contemplated before. And that's sort of my job as a coach, to always help people ask themselves questions which maybe they haven't asked themselves before, and so dig a little bit deeper and help them to grow in areas that they may not have considered, or that may have been a problem which they felt like there was no solution to them. And tomorrow is going to be the last of our 4 days of our 4-part seminar series here. It's going to be about traps and perceived obligations. Some things that you may feel stuck with, maybe some obligations or things you think you need to do, but where it would serve you to let go. And there's a fairly broad range of things, and I hope for great participation, for lots of people to call in, so we can share those thoughts with each other, and help each other out, and how we can get out of those traps or false obligations that we may be hanging on to, so we can free our lives in 2021 to really move forward towards a life that is much more aligned with a mission, with a purpose in our personal lives, with our dreams. So look forward to that tomorrow. And in the meantime, keep well, enjoy the rest of the year, and let's do everything we can to let go of 2021, leave it behind, so we can get ready for a great start in 2021. Take care and see you tomorrow.